Good morning. So I grew up in a cultured Bengali family, and I grew up very much in the thick of Bengali intellectual life. When I was in Presidency College in the second year, I got exposed to a cycle of 4 films by Ingmar Bergman, the Swedish filmmaker, and I think that had a dramatic impact on my life. And it changed me. I think it is one of the high dramatic turning points in my life. In a way, I think the repressed love for literature got diverted towards cinema. And Bergman was asking the deep questions of life. What does it mean to live? What makes life worthwhile? And these questions, haunting questions. It was followed by a seminar on Bergman at the college, and it was conducted by the topmost film scholar of India at that time, who was not Indian. He's a French-Canadian Jesuit priest who is the founder of film studies in India, Father Gaston Roberge. His books on cinema are classics of Indian cinema. So Father Gaston Roberge was taking a conference on Bergman, and I was in the first row and asking him anguished questions. At the end of it, he called me and he said, "You seem to be very interested in cinema. Why don't you come over to my library?" And he ran a film library, an organization called Chitrabani at that time. When I went there, I was absolutely, it opened up my eyes that what a vast world of knowledge is cinema. Never known that there is something called a film library. It still remains India's biggest film library. So Father Gaston Roberge walked in and he asked me that, what do you want to study? And I said, well, obviously Bergman. And I found there were a row of books on Bergman. So I was lost, and I kept on going to that place, and that place was very close to my college. And so I bunked my practical classes, and my third year in college was very painful. And it was like an extramarital affair because I was married to statistics, and cinema was my mistress, and I had to decide which way I wanted to go. And I got deeply, I decided no statistics. Either I have to go headlong and dive into the subject and forget everything, if I have to be successful in that area, because it is quite a challenging subject, or I look elsewhere. I pursue and it was a very, very difficult decision. Of course, there is the resistance from family. Something interesting happened that I didn't even know, because my parents saw me buying books about cinema and they didn't understand what this is. Film theory, film history, and all these things, big fat books. So secretly, my father wrote a letter to Satyajit Ray and asking him, expressing his dilemma and asking his suggestion. What should I do with my son? And I can show you that letter. Satyajit Ray wrote in his beautiful calligraphic handwriting, saying that keep your son away from cinema. It is a dangerous profession. And he actually said this. He wrote in Bengali, "It is no sign of intelligence to take this up as a profession." Seagull Books' journal, a very high quality journal, used to come out called Splice. And in the 4th issue of the journal, which was its last issue, I was asked to write an essay, write the lead article on audience reception, studies on audience reception around the world, and how the making of cinema or an understanding of cinema can be deepened through an understanding of audience responses, an empirical study of audience responses. So that was my first foray into film research, you might say. One day, the editor of this magazine was a major theatre scholar and film scholar, cultural scholar in Bengal, who is still, luckily still alive, Shumik Bandyopadhyay. He received a call from Mrinal Sen asking him that how is Splice going, the journal. And he says, no, it is going okay, and now I have got somebody to assist me on Splice. So Mrinal Sen said, asked, who is this guy? So he said, oh, he's just a fresh graduate from Presidency. And he wants to study films, wants to go to America, but he doesn't know how to go. And Mrinal Sen told him, if he is good, bring him to my house today. And and the next thing I know, I was sitting in the library, in the Chitravani library, reading a book, and he taps me on the shoulder and he says, "Come to the canteen, I want to talk to you. Mrinal Sen wants to see you." And he takes me to Mrinal Sen's house, and Mrinal Sen, in his characteristic white kurta and white pajama, he opens the door and he said, "Oh, you are Indranil," holds me by the collar, and he makes me sit down in his drawing room. And he tells me, "Yes, Shomik has been telling me about you." And then I came to know that he is just back from Cuba. And he said that they were invited for the opening of a film school. This is in 1987, which was opened by a famous writer called Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who was a Nobel laureate, 1982, I think, Nobel laureate. So I had read his novels and I could not believe what he's talking about. It's like you are being told, "Come and meet Tolstoy." And he said that this Garcia Marquez takes classes over there, and he runs the film school, and it's a very international film school, and they want one student from India. So they told me that you decide whom to send from India. I spoke to my parents, who also didn't understand, and the one thing is that it comes with the scholarship. So no expenses from their end, and I'm going to go away and it is Spanish medium, so I have to learn Spanish. So that was a challenge. So eventually the entire admission process took a year, and I found myself in Havana in 1988 to 1992, 4 years. These were some of the experiences that shaped me, some of the important experiences that shaped me. I lived in Bombay for professional reasons, 15 years of my life, bought a house there and brought up my son, moved to Bombay when my son was 1 year old. Yes, I have been struggling to make films, but the point is, I do not connect either with Bengali cinema as it is now or with Hindi cinema. I cannot make. I saw myself as the only kind of cinema I can make is that grows from who I am. And so all my stories are around cross-cultural stories and moving characters who travel, characters who are living across beyond their places of origin, moving across cultures and countries. I moved to Bombay to become a filmmaker because I know that Bengali cinema operates on a very small budget. One of my films came very close to getting made. I traveled to Brazil many times, to Portugal, and big Hollywood stars were involved in it, big Hindi film stars, and everybody was willing. My professor from film school, who is one of the finest cinematographers in the world, Cesar Charlone, the guy who made City of God, wanted to work with me. And so I had built up, and finally, and half the money was there, and finally the Indian producer collapsed, did not want to show the money, and the whole co-production deal fell off. So that is my film. And ever since then, it consumed about 6 to 7 years of my life. And I needed to have something to keep on moving from day to day, from month to month. And because I'm also academically oriented, teaching, and I love teaching, I not come to teaching. Many people who come into film teaching are because they can't make films. So this is like we used to say in FTII. I used to teach in FTII, Whistling Woods, all these places. And in FTII it is said that it is the teachers are basically failures. And I would say the majority of the teachers come into film teaching because they have failed. But very few teachers have actually have a love for teaching. I don't know, you pass your judgment on me. But the point is, I came into teaching because I love the profession. I love teaching. My father was also a teacher. My sister is a teacher. And Bombay is an incredible place in that sense that many people are searching for an opportunity and going on from day to day, living with their dreams, and they spend their entire lives with the dream being materializing. And I was one of them. In Bombay, there is a saying, the day you receive a call from Amitabh Bachchan, that means that day you have arrived. You have arrived, So for me, that kind of happened one day. Not really Amitabh Bachchan, but equivalent. At that time, the biggest film producer was Subhash Ghai. And one day at 8 o'clock at night, he called me while I was playing with my son, and he told me, "Can I see you? As soon as many people have recommended your name to me, I want to see you as soon as possible." And I said, "When do you want me to come?" He said, "Yesterday." I was one of the founding faculty, and I worked there for more than 7 years. And then it was reaching a point where Whistling Woods was a very, very commercial outfit. But yet, I would consider it the best run film institute anywhere in India. Over the years, I've written some books, and some books, for example, I think they are here, some of them. This is the first book I had published, called The New Latin American Cinema. And this was way back in 1996, and it became a kind of a basic reference text for MA students in film studies in JNU and Jadavpur University. It still is after 25 years. So this book, on any Indian who is interested in Latin American cinema, starts off with my book, even today. And there is another book. This is a book that was published from Germany. It is a study of the Indian film industry. I think it was published in 2006, 2004, by the German Film Exporters Union. It is part of a series called Market Analysis, a comprehensive study of the film and television market. So there is USA, France, Germany, different people. I wrote the India part. And the last major book I wrote is this one. It is a book written in Spanish, and it is called Rediscovering Tagore, Redescubriendo Tagore. And it is published by Sahitya Academy. Sahitya Academy is, in 75 years, it's the only foreign language publication by Sahitya Academy. And this book is about the impact that few people know, the impact that our Tagore had on Latin American literature, on Latin American writers, and what they have written about Tagore, and our assessment of their responses, etc. So it is called Rediscovering. It is meant like a textbook, not a textbook, like a reference text for people in that part of the world, in Spain and Latin America, who want to pursue. So this is like pursuing, and in that sense, a rediscovering of Tagore. Chalo. Done? Cinema is dead. Oh. From time to time, people make declarations, literature is dead, the novel is dead, cinema is dead. I think it is based on a certain idea is old, passing away, new ideas are coming into play. So to say, if you are reading all the great novels that are coming out around us, around the world, it will be stupid to say that the novel is dead, because a similar claim is made. It is a certain idea of the novel that is no longer there, but that is the nature of literature, that it changes with time. So also with cinema, the whole notion of cinema is changing deeply. So for those who hold on to a certain idea of cinema, people tend to think that the cinema, maybe the French cinema of the 60s is the benchmark of what cinema should be, which is a very, very dogmatic idea. You might say, okay, that cinema is no more. That doesn't mean cinema is dead. Cinema is thriving in different ways, in different parts of the world in different ways. And now with new technology, cinema is a very different art from all other art forms, because it is so deeply tied to technological development. Is literature connected with technology? Is painting connected with technology? Is theatre connected with technology? Not so much. Or is music connected so much to technology? No. But cinema is deeply intertwined with the history of with the development of technology. But I think the moving image will continue in whatever avatar, in whatever form, will continue. And our way of looking at films are going to change. And I think there is exciting cinema happening all around the world. No need to be pessimistic.